Well, hi everyone, and welcome to a very different kind of musings of an Earthbound alien. Figure we'd do this on the way to my day job. It's a beautiful morning. It's about 5-6 degrees outside. That's Celsius for all of you that don't live in the rest of the world. And hopefully this works. I'll find out when I go to edit, because you never know. But anyways, in today's episode, we're going to talk about a bunch of different things. And we'll see how this goes. Stick around, we'll be right back. And welcome back. And as you can see, we're just heading out of town. We'll get to the highway in a few minutes. And we'll have a little chat on the way, shall we? That's the first thing that I wanted to bring up was, as of today, the 19th of April, I had to think about that, we're going into, I think this is the third stay-at-home order. It's either the second or third stay-at-home order in Ontario. While I'm getting a little tired of it, what I'm getting tired of more than anything is the fact that certain wingnuts seem to think that this is some sort of a joke, that this pandemic is not real. Don't know where they got that idea from. Trump and his wingnuts, and a whole bunch of other wingnuts around the planet, for that matter, not just him. This is real. Okay. Where I work, there's actually 2 people that have been tested positive already. That's not a lot of fun. I'm scheduled for my vaccine, and I plan on taking it because I don't want to catch this thing. And if I do catch it, I'd rather have a very mild form of it than having to go through ICU. Because the hospitals are pretty much over capacity at this point in time, to the point where Toronto hospitals are actually sending ICU patients to Ottawa and outside of Toronto, outside of the GTA. And that's not a good sign. Healthcare workers are burned out. There's only so many of them. There's only so much they can do, and they can't do any more. And it doesn't help when these fucking morons, and I say that in the nicest of ways, are having everything from barbecues to pool parties to everything in between without any kind of, distancing, masking, quite frankly, just general stupidity from what I can tell. And it's spreading. I mean, the numbers in Ontario have never been higher. In the first 2 waves, this is the 3rd wave. Who knows if there's going to be a 4th wave? But you know what? Enough is enough. You got to start taking this thing seriously. If you want to get out of this, if you want to get back to some semblance of normalcy, you need to take this seriously. Enough already. Alright, enough said on that. Let's move on to something a little bit more entertaining. This one's for the geeks and the nerds and the sci-fi fans. I am having a bit of a sci-fi dilemma. And this has to do with the Alien franchise. And I hadn't thought about it before. There's been a whole bunch of fan theories. There's been some partial scripts and full scripts and rewrites found in various places. There have been hints from the directors and the actors that have seen some of these scripts. But the theory is the engineers, and spoilers if you haven't seen the Alien movies or the whole franchise, including Prometheus and those bad movies, but if the engineers seeded the planet Earth and sacrificed themselves to create human beings, and I'm not going to get into that silliness, but let's say within the franchise, that's, you know, within that alien universe, that's what happened. And they decided, the reason that the derelict ship was on LV-426 and the planet that the Prometheus found the engineer ships, why would they create, and the theory is, and this was what was supposedly cut from the film Prometheus, was when they were having a conversation, such as it was, with the engineer near the end of the movie, before he went on a rampage and killed everybody except for Shaw. Why is it that they felt they needed to go back and eliminate the human species? Because according to the missing and yet found scripts, that they were not happy with how we turned out. The fact that we were essentially killing ourselves through wars and silliness and stupidity and whatever. Okay, I get that. I get the concept. Okay, a little too biblical for me, but whatever. But here we go. Why create a virus that doesn't actually kill us? I mean, it kills off the human species, but it actually creates the aliens. I mean, that just doesn't make sense. Why not just poison the atmosphere and just wipe us out that way? Nuke us from space? You know, a poison that targeted the human DNA and left everything else intact was entirely plausible. But that didn't happen. Instead, they created a virus, or they created the goo, the black ooze, the goo that we see in the movie Prometheus. They created that essentially to mutate the human race into something monstrous, as in the Alien franchise. And if that's not bad enough as a plot hole, the other problem I'm having with this whole franchise now, the way it's turning out to be, which is why the movie Prometheus is a bad movie, is when you look at the Alien versus Predator movies. In those movies, which is still within the same universe, the predator species, which we call the predators, they don't call themselves that, but they use the aliens basically as a training ground to hunt. Like, but hang on a second. If that's the case, then the predators and the engineers live in the same universe. You know what? I'm getting the feeling that some of these writers, the producers, the directors, the studios, they're really starting to piss off the fans. Because the fans are saying, enough already. These plot holes are big enough to drive a fucking truck through. Hell, it's big enough to drive the USS Enterprise through. Spaceship or actual Enterprise, which would be the aircraft carrier. And the movies themselves are starting to get silly. The books do a better job to explain the universe within those franchises, whether it's Aliens or Star Trek or Star Wars. I mean, the books do a far better job. Those writers have gone out of their way to make it a far more enjoyable experience in using your imagination. But I'm having a hard time in thinking that, okay, but hang on a second. There's so many holes in these things. Why wouldn't the producers, the writers, the studios, why not just say, okay, look, let's maintain the thread. It was working, it did good, it made money, let's continue that. Why fuck with it? Pardon the expression. And basically messed the entire thing up. I mean, Prometheus was a bad movie. And quite frankly, the movie that should have been, that was green-lighted, the one that was supposed to take place, is the one where the original surviving cast from the Aliens movie, the actual second movie, would be reunited in some adventure somewhere where they had to go back, and that includes Ripley and Newt and Shepard, and it's, or Hicks, sorry, not Shepard, Hicks. But that seemed to have a far better concept to it than Prometheus. And quite frankly, what I was reading before Prometheus even came out, when they first made those announcements that, yeah, the reunited Ripley and Newt and gang would get together and make that movie with the actors, Sigourney Weaver and the actress that played Newt and Hicks and that sort of thing. But that was essentially going to be the better third movie in the franchise. It would have been sort of volume 3 in that franchise, because the Alien 3 movie that came out on the prison planet, that was just stupid. I mean, that was just a really bad movie on so many levels. And let's face it, Prometheus and The Covenant and all these other things that came out afterwards were equally as bad. They just didn't make any sense whatsoever. It just ruined the franchise as far as I'm concerned. But whatever. Was I entertained with Prometheus? I mean, yeah, sure, I was entertained, but it doesn't mean I enjoyed it. I think I would have enjoyed it far better and be far more entertained if they had made that other movie. Assuming, of course, the script was actually good. Anyway, enough of that. Let's take a look at some upcoming sci-fi news in the Star Trek front. I've been reading some tantalizing rumors that there is in fact a green-lit new Star Trek movie coming out. Yes, it's in the Kelvin timeline, but I haven't seen anything on which actors are playing it. Because if you follow the franchise, you'll know that the actors that play Spock and Kirk had decided they're going to walk away from it. They're not going to do it anymore. And which is too bad. But, you know, as far as the Star Trek franchise and everything goes, I'm sorry, but Discovery is just really stupid. As far as I'm concerned, it's a bust. I mean, I make fun of the franchise simply because the writing is so bad. The plots are just ludicrous. I mean, there's so many issues with the Discovery series that it's just terrible. I know it has its fan base, but I'm not one of them. The other thing, too, is with Discovery, I mean, Brennan, the lead character, who is now captain of Discovery, I mean, every single episode, this is supposed to be a Starfleet officer, leader of a ship, you know, now a captain, and every bloody episode she's in tears. This does not bode well for the female of the species in the future if every single thing brings you to tears, because I'm sorry, my experience has been that women are way friggin' stronger than that. And in today's world, you have, you know, in the Canadian Armed Forces alone, you have many women that are in leadership roles that are not being brought to bloody tears because they have a hangnail. Or, you know, you're in a command position, you better realize that you are sending men and women to die in combat when you give an order. I mean, that's their job. I mean, I'm not saying that men and women are cannon fodder or anything like that, or should be cannon fodder. You want to avoid that as much as possible. But there's a certain reality that if you are given an order that this is a possibility, you're not going to, you know, especially every minute, break into tears. And okay, I'm going to get hate mail for that. You know, it may be a bad analogy, but in that series, almost every single episode has that character breaking down. Like, this is not a good character trait in a leadership role. And that's just one of many criticisms I have. I actually think that the animated Star Trek series, Lower Decks, is a way better show. I mean, so much better. It's not just funnier, but, you know, you actually have thought-provoking episodes the same way that the original Star Trek series and Gene Roddenberry's ideas actually promoted, was that these were thought-provoking science fiction episodes. They used a fictitious future world or future universe to mirror the human condition as it was today, or as it is today. You know, everything from race to religion to war to famine, I mean, ethics, you name it. And it did provoke thought. That's what it was supposed to do. As well as entertain. Let's face it, it only provoked thought on these conditions if you were paying attention, if you were of an age that you realized the analogies. And I guess you can say the same thing for today with the shows. But I find that Lower Decks has far more thought-provoking concepts than Discovery. To me, Discovery is a wash. Lower Decks also has the humor. I mean, come on, who can't laugh at Badgie? Now, if you haven't seen Lower Decks, I'm not giving anything away, but I mean, that's a funny character. But if you like Star Trek at all, you really should watch Star Trek Lower Decks. I think that's a much better program. And they are coming back. There's a season, is it season 3 or 4? I forget now. Obviously, I'm not in front of my computer to check these things. Anyway. What other geek-like programs, things should we talk about? One of the things that we might want to talk about is the state of affairs when it comes to movies and such. There's a lot of movies that they were slated for 2020, 2021, and now pushed back in some cases to 2022 and 3. And quite frankly, some studios have decided to push these movies out on streaming services through their affiliate networks, whether it's CBS, NBC, Disney. I mean, let's face it, Disney's tried that a couple of times to some success. And you can't blame them, considering that you really don't want to be going out to movies right now. On a global scale, I mean, there are some places where movie theaters are open, if not to full capacity, to reduced capacity, which is unfortunate because even that, to me, is problematic. I'm actually trying to change lanes here, but this guy is not letting me in. There we go. And anyway, movies. It's going to be interesting to see how the next slate of movies will be released, because until they get the virus under control to the point where we can get back to, again, even if it's masked up or somehow reduced capacity, 50%, 75% capacity in theaters, I can't see how studios are going to release movies to that sort of format and make money. I suspect that a lot of the movies that will be released in the next 2 to 3 years, well, in the next year and a half, let's say, in the short term, for those release dates, they may decide, and I have heard rumors to this effect, but they may decide to say, okay, look, we'll release it to theaters, for those theaters that can show the films. At the same time, do a simultaneous release to an online streaming service, whether that's Prime, Netflix, Disney. I mean, obviously Disney's not going to want to release a movie that Disney didn't produce, or then again they might if they can get some money out of it. They don't care. But I think profits in general for movies are going to be down. I'm not sure that's a sustainable model with the big budget films. I mean, some of these big budget blockbusters, the costs for these have risen dramatically. The last few blockbusters are well over $100-200 million to produce, and not all of them have made money. And that's part of the reason, by the way, that you end up with really crappy sequels. They say, well, it didn't make money. We're not going to pour that kind of cash into it again. We'll do something, but it won't be near the extent that they had it before, as far as effects and location shots and whatnot. But anyway, just a thought, just a random thought to wrap up this segment of Musings of an Earthbound Alien. By the way, don't forget, if you enjoyed the episode, as crazy as this one was in today's world of isolation and stay-at-home orders and whatnot, to like and subscribe. The more subscriptions I have, the more likes I have, the more we can produce better segments, have more guest speakers. I actually had a lot of feedback from when Chuck was on. We were talking about Charles O'Day, when we were talking about age, and the fact that age is less a physical attribute as it is more a state of mind, which is an old concept, but I think it's a realistic concept. But that being said, let's move on from there, and we'll wrap this up because I'm almost where I need to go. And I hope you enjoyed today's strange episode for the geek and geeks and nerds alike in today's little episode. And we'll talk to you guys later. We'll see you again soon. Take care now. Bye-bye. Be safe out there.